Hello students, good morning. Hope you all are doing good. Welcome to the program NEET Foundation, and today's topic we are going to discuss is about body fluids and circulation. What kind of body fluids which are present in the body and what kind of circulation can be observed in different kinds of organisms like unicellular and the multicellular organisms, right? So, let us enter into the topic. What is the introduction of the topic? So, why do we require the body fluids? Okay, so our body works as a machine, and how does it act as a machine? By intaking the three kinds of substances like nothing but solids, liquids and gases. For physical process, physiological process, nothing but the circulation of substances throughout the complete body has to occur by the particular system is called as a circulatory system. Okay, so that kind of circulatory system, the fluids which are moving from one place to another place through one particular organ is called as a heart. Yes, in multicellular organisms there is a requirement of organ. Coming to unicellular organisms, there is not any requirement of organ, and unicellular is nothing but only single cell functions all the body metabolical activities, right? Let us see here what is the introduction part. All living bodies need nutrients, oxygen in every cell of its various tissues to sustain the life, right? So, in a cellular level, whatever the basically in multicellular or a single cellular organisms, so we can observe the metabolical activities do undergo in a multiple processes, life processes, nothing but the respiration process, the transportation process, the digestion process also called as a nutritional process, yes, excretion, reproduction, right. So, majorly what occurs in the multicellular organisms, so it first of all occurs in a cellular level, right. So, within that they require, the body requires the energy. How do they get the energy? By intake of the nutrients, by intake of the gaseous form called as a oxygen, and also each and every cell, basically each and every cell requires, and various tissues also, cells as it requires, the combination of cells all together forms a tissue, combination of tissues all together forms a organ, combination of multiple types of organisms all together forms a organ system, and multiple organ systems will combine together and all together which forms a machine like organism which continuously undergo the life processes until they complete their lifespan. Either it might be the single organism or it might be the multicellular organism. Okay, single celled organisms, let us see here. The unicellular organisms, like what are they? Just they gave the examples like amoeba and paramecium. What do? It seems. So, they do undergo in direct contact with their surroundings. First of all, where do the amoeba and paramecium stays? In the water bodies, right? So, from the surroundings they will be in a direct contact of whatever the materials they require. So, that will be received by the body of the paramecium and the amoeba, like any sort of unicellular organisms. From what they are obtaining, it seems they are obtaining the nutrients through the process called as a diffusion, right? Students, I guess you might have heard about the concept diffusion. If not, let us discuss now. What is the diffusion? Movement of the substances from higher concentration to lower concentration level, and it diffuses equally throughout the body, so that whatever the nutrients are present are required by the body will be completely distributed towards to it, so that the nutrients as it passes, the complete organism will be receiving the energy for undergoing the metabolical activities. Okay, so in the unicellular organisms, the nutrients are being taken up directly by the surroundings through the diffusion process. Okay, so is there any involvement of organ here? There is no involvement of organ, only in the presence of cell. The cell do undergo this kind of process called as a diffusion process, and this occurs only in a single cellular organisms. So, in higher organisms, higher in the sense like multicellular organisms like plants and animals, So there are the different types of substances, as just now we have discussed previously in the introduction part. So they require the three substances like solids, liquids and the gases. What might be the solids? The nutritive substances. First of all, they will be in a solid form and converting into the liquid forms. And what are the liquids? The food material itself contains the water, and inside the body along with the blood, which is reddish in color, do contain different kinds of liquids. Within the blood itself it contains the liquid. They do contain the hormones, they do contain the vitamins what we take, and they do contain the plasma, serum, what not that are present in the blood. Everything will be present in the blood along with the mineral salts and all for complete metabolical activities to undergo. The distribution of the blood has to occur. So this is nothing but the transportation system in the animals. But coming to plants, so they do have different types of tissues, nothing but the vascular tissues, a tube-like structures. So those are the xylem vessels and the phloem vessels. So through the xylem vessels, with the root pressure and the osmotic pressure, the water and the mineral nutrients are moving towards to the plant body and provide energy towards to the tip of the tree or a plant body, and the leaves will be undergoing the process called as a nutritional process called as a photosynthesis. And after preparation of food material, does it stay over there in the leaf itself? No, it has to distribute. And one more vessel is called as a phloem vessel in the plants especially. So these are responsible for transporting the food materials, glucose materials, starch materials or the carbohydrates. So they will be traveling throughout the plant body until the tip of the root, which is penetrating deeply into the soil. So that this is the transporting system in the plants. Okay. In the animals we have different types of organs. Okay. And different substances are required by the organisms like plants and animals. So these are to be carried from one place to another place. Each and every organ system, each and every tissue, each and every cell, continuously the living organism until they complete their lifespan, they need to undergo the life processes. So further, the body requires the continuous energy. Continuous energy, how do we get? By receiving the different types of substances like fluids and the nutritional substances and different types of the substances. Other substances like gaseous substances, nothing but the oxygen, especially for the animals. And coming to plants, they do require both the oxygen and also the carbon dioxide. When do the plants require oxygen? They require the oxygen during the respiration process. And when do the plants require the carbon dioxide? They do require it for preparing the food materials. Nothing but the process called as a photosynthesis. Right? So now coming to the picture. So first of all, what we have discussed, the type of transportation in the unicellular organism. So here he gave the example of amoeba. Right? So amoeba, which is in the water. So it is receiving, this is the body of the amoeba. Yes, the shape will be completely irregular. Okay, so arrow marks, see the arrow marks. So what they are entering into? Oxygen, the gas is entering into the body surface, and the glucose is also entering into the, through the body surface it enters into the vacuole, and after the diffusion process, complete diffusion of both oxygen and the glucose, so we can observe the distribution of the energified molecules, and then it generates the waste products. It generates the waste products. As the waste product, it should not be inside the body at any cost. It has to get rid outside the body. So what is the arrow mark which is shown here? From the body of the amoeba, in the same process diffusion pathway, the surface of the amoeba is responsible for removing the poisonous waste products into the water bodies. Okay, so this is the process called as a diffusion process. Right? The definition is given over here. Substances move into the cell by diffusion, moving from high concentration, nothing but the food materials which are high in concentration, but there is lack of food material in the amoeba, right? So into the low concentration, the movement of the substances are moving from high into the body in a low concentration condition, and once it enters, immediately what happens? The substances will be completely distributing in equal amount, so that the complete surrounding surface of the amoeba or any sort of unicellular organism could able to receive the nutrient and the oxygenated molecules. So by that it undergoes the metabolical activities and it releases the poisonous waste substances. It diffuses. The surface of the amoeba will be responsible for ridding the waste substance outside of the body. So this is the effective process because the cell has a large surface area relative to its volume. Okay, so what is having a large surface area? The single cell is having, the single cell occupies the complete space inside the organism to undergo the metabolical activities. Okay, so what is the process called as? It's a diffusion, right? And coming to transportation in humans and animals and also the plants, right? So within the transportation of human and animals, heart is the common organ. So along with the heart there are the blood vessels. Okay, different kinds of blood vessels which help in transporting the useful substances to the body cells and also transporting the useless substances from the heart to blood vessels and blood vessels to the other organs. So these organs are responsible for releasing the waste products into the atmosphere. And coming to plant, so here the arrow marks you see, the up arrow mark is moving towards to the leaf. Okay, so why it has to reach the leaf? To undergo the photosynthesis process. And what does the leaf do? The leaf will be preparing the food material and distributing throughout the plant body. Okay, so there are different organs which are present in the plants and animals to undergo the transportation process. Hope you all understood, dears. Right, coming to the next concept. So let us see how many types of circulatory systems in animals. In animals we are going to discuss in this video. So there are two types of circulatory systems. One is the single circulation and one more is the double circulation. Okay, so in detail we will be discussing about both separately. So what is a single circulation? A type of blood which receives the heart only once to complete one circulation is called as a single circulation. And what is the example for that? Fish. Yes, fish has only two chambers of heart. What are the chambers? So they are the place which allows the blood to enter into the heart and it allows the blood to move into the body parts through the other organs. Okay, so let us see here. Single circulatory systems, the blood passes through, what is passing through? The blood passes through the heart only how many times? Heart only once. For completing how many circulations? For single circulation. Okay, so for each circuit around the whole body of the blood, circulation system of the animal. Okay, so why it has to reach? Why it has to reach the heart and why it has to reach the body parts? Okay, so the different substances from the body, it will be moving towards to the atmosphere and from atmosphere what is moving into the body in the single circulation. Let us see the mechanism. So before to that, let us complete this. So it consists of blood. Yes, what is the blood? Blood contains the solid particles, liquid particles and the gaseous molecules. Okay, so what are the solid particles? The nutrients and the dissolved mineral salts. And what are the liquid particles? Blood contains the plasma and also contains the vitamins and hormones. And what kind of gaseous molecules are present in the blood? Yes, it receives the oxygen and the body generates the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide has to reach out towards to the atmosphere, and from the atmosphere it will be reached towards to the plant body. It's a cyclic process. Okay. So blood vessels and the heart. Okay. So these are the three organs. Blood is a connective tissue, we can say. Okay, it's not an organ, it's a connective tissue. And what are the blood vessels? These are the tubular structures which help in transporting the blood continuously. Separate kind of blood will be transported through separate kind of blood vessels. Okay, so these blood vessels are responsible for sending the blood from the heart towards to body parts and from the body parts towards to heart. Okay, so these three organs are required for passing the blood through the heart once per cycle around the complete circulation. How many circulations can be seen in the fish? Only single circulation. Okay, so example we have discussed already, it's a fish. So how many chambered heart we can observe here in the fishes? Only 2 chambered heart. Okay, there is one atrium. This is one of the room and one ventricle. This is another room. Okay, so let us see here. Within the fish we can observe the heart. This is the atrium which receives the deoxygenated blood. Okay, so in the circulation process or in the heart or in the blood vessels, the red color blood vessels and the red hand side, a red color wherever we are observing, that indicates the passage of the oxygenated blood, and the blue color indicates the passage of the deoxygenated blood. Nothing but the carbon dioxide molecules are present inside the blood. Okay, it's an impure blood. Where we can observe the oxygenated molecules, that is called as a pure blood. Right? So here for the fish, what is responsible for exchange of gases? Okay, the respiratory organs called as a gills. So near the operculum region, if you just cut open, cutting is not required, just if you go for just buying the fishes into the fish market, so there you can observe your father or mother might be just opening which is the fresh one. Okay, so there you can observe by opening the operculum, a flap like structure, you can observe some gill structures. Okay, the structure will be like this, like a comb. Okay, so they will be observing whether this is brown or reddish in color. Right? So these are the gill structures which are responsible for receiving the oxygen and sending the oxygen. Okay? So through that we can observe the circulation process in the fishes. Right? Next, let us see in detail what is the mechanism of the single circulation in fishes. Right? So let us complete the theory part and let's go for the description process. In the diagram. The gills contain many capillaries. The gills, what are the gills? Gills are the respiratory organs of the fishes. Okay, so what do they contain? Blood capillaries. Capillaries are the another type of blood vessels, very small and thin blood vessels which are responsible for exchanging the gases from arteries to veins. What are arteries and what are veins? Those are the two types of blood vessels which are responsible for passage of. Arteries always carries the oxygenated blood except the pulmonary arteries. Pulmonary arteries are nothing but they are related to the lungs. Okay, and systemic arteries are nothing but they are arising from the heart. Okay, so systemic aorta, systemic veins will be responsible for passing the oxygenated blood. Pulmonary artery and pulmonary veins which will be carrying the deoxygenated blood. But coming to the mammals, pulmonary veins will carry the oxygenated blood and veins will carry the deoxygenated blood. Okay, so same kind of circulation can be seen in the aves, birds and also the reptiles. Okay, let us see here. The capillaries for gaseous exchange, that is what we have discussed previously. So the blood pressure is low. Okay, so the blood pressure is low, it seems, as the oxygenated molecules are entering into the fish body through the gills. So meanwhile what happens? We can observe there will be a connection between, here you see the combination of blue color and the red color, nothing but mixing of both the molecules within the gill pouches. Okay, so here we can observe the red color which is present over here is receiving the oxygenated molecules through the gills. Okay, through the gills it enters into the, what enters into the body? The oxygenated molecules will enter into the blood within the blood vessels and through the blood arteriole and artery. So this is the blood vessel and the branches are nothing but the arterioles and these are the blood capillaries. Okay, so very fine blood vessels are called as a blood capillaries. Fine, just thin blood vessels are called as a arterioles and the main one is called as a artery. Okay, so that will be receiving the oxygenated molecules. It moves along with the blood and enters into the body. So body do undergo the metabolical activities, nothing but the cellular respiration, metabolical activities, the cellular respiration which undertaken by the cell. Within that the mitochondria will be undertaking. So there the carbon dioxide will be releasing and entering into the capillaries, venules, veins and the main chamber. Okay, so first enter into the atrium and from the atrium enters into the ventricle and through the ventricle it enters into the gills and through the gills it enters into the mouth and what goes outside? Carbon dioxide molecules will be moving outside into the water body. What kind of oxygen will be taken up by the fish? The dissolved oxygen will be taken up by the fish, right? And the dissolved carbon dioxide will be moving into the water. Yes. Next one is the double circulation system. The second type of circulation is called as a double circulation. So examples are the amphibians, reptiles, birds and mammals. Okay, so here the blood will be receiving the heart and receive it by the body parts 2 times to complete the double circulation. Okay, so let us see. So within the double circulation what all involves? Okay, so already we have discussed that it consists of the blood, it consists of blood vessels and also consists of the heart. Okay, so 3 major organs are required. One is the fluid connective tissue, which contains the solids, liquids and gases, and blood vessels are nothing but the tubular structures which are responsible for passage of the different bloods towards to the body parts and also towards to the heart, and the heart is responsible for receiving 2 types of bloods twice to complete a single circulation, nothing but the cardiac cycle. Okay, so this through the heart twice per cycle around the completing of a circuit. What is a circuit? For completing the complete blood has to receive. So what has to be received? Deoxygenated blood from the body parts has to receive the heart and that has to be read outside, and oxygenated blood has to receive it by the body and from there the lungs receives the oxygenated molecules and from there it goes to from the lungs it goes to heart and heart will be sending the oxygenated blood towards to the body parts through the blood vessels. Okay, so these plays a very major role. So let us see here, this is the blood vessel cut open part section of the blood vessel which carries the oxygenated blood. These are the red blood cells, vein, and this is the artery. Yes, so blood, heart and blood vessels which are responsible for continuous process to undergo the circuit process called as a circulation. Hope you all understood. These are distributed throughout the body to reach up to each and every cell. What will be reached up? The nutritive substances and the gaseous molecule called as a oxygen, and also releasing outside the carbon dioxide molecules and the produced waste products. Each and every vein is responsible for releasing the waste product enters into the heart, and each and every oxygenated molecule and the nutritive substances will be reaching towards the cell through the artery, main aorta, right? Coming to the next concept, double circulation in some of the organisms. Okay, so let us see here, what is a double circulation? Double circulatory systems are the circulatory systems by which blood flows through the heart. How many times? Twice, nothing but 2 times. What kind of blood? One is the oxygenated blood which contains the oxygen molecules, and one is the deoxygenated blood which contains the carbon dioxide molecules. Okay, so the heart receives 2 kinds of bloods twice to complete one circulation. Okay, so what are the 2 types of circulatory systems, circulation process? One is the pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary in the sense we need to get in our mind as a lungs. Okay, so pulmonary circulation, the blood will be reaching towards to the lungs. Yes, means sending towards to the lungs. Okay, so that is the blood flow between the heart and the lungs. From the heart it goes to lungs, and for the heart who sends? For the heart, the body cells, the body will be sending the blood through the veins. Okay, the blue colored one. Here also we can observe the blue and red partitions. Okay, so we will be discussing it later, and this which will be separating from the systemic circulation. One is the pulmonary circulation which sends the blood from body parts to heart, heart to lungs, and what is the second circulation? Is the systemic circulation. Okay, so here what happens? The movement of blood from the heart through the rest of the body excluding lungs. Okay, so for this systemic and pulmonary circulation, we need to discuss one of the other life process called as a respiration process. Okay, breathing process. What is breathing process? Inhalation and exhalation, right? So the inhalation process, the body receives the oxygenated molecules through the respiratory tract, and exhalation process, the body will be releasing the waste product, especially through the nose we will be releasing the carbon dioxide molecules. Okay, so as there is a relation between the lungs, respiratory system, and the heart, the circulatory system, and the nutritive system called as a digestive system, so all these are the combining, integrating pathways to complete the circulation process. Okay, so if there is no digestive system, there is no movement of nutrients towards to the cell, so that there is no glycolysis process occurs. Okay, so if there is no oxygenated molecules, there is no energy releasing process, right? Oxygenated molecules are meant for breaking down the digested food molecules. Okay, so for this, the oxygenated molecules, transporting agents are the hemoglobin. Not only the oxygen, even the carbon dioxide molecules are also carried by the hemoglobin. Okay, so this excluding the lungs anyway, they will be receiving the oxygenated molecules. Some of the oxygenated molecules will be stored in them, and again the heart will not be sending the oxygenated molecules to lungs. Okay, so from lungs itself the oxygenated molecules are entering into heart. Apart from lungs, remaining body organs will be receiving the oxygenated molecules through the systemic circulation. Okay, so let us see in the picture here. So just to concentrate on the blue color and the red color. Okay, so first we will be discussing about the pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary circulation in the sense blood moves from body organs to lungs. Okay, so where is the body organ? The posterior body parts. Okay, so this is the posterior body part and this is the anterior body part. Okay, so whatever the deoxygenated molecules are released by the cells, they will be releasing into the tissues to the capillaries of a blood vessels. So from the capillaries they reach to the venules, and from the venules they reach towards to the main vein. Okay, so here we can observe posterior vena cava, it sends the blood in upward direction, and anterior vena cava, nothing but superior vena cava, sending the anterior body parts released carbon dioxide molecules to one of the chamber. How many chambers in double circulation we can observe? 2 atria and 2 ventricles. Okay. So one of the chamber is called as a right auricle or atrium also we can say. So that receives the deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood, nothing but the carbon dioxide molecules which are entering into the right atrium from anterior region and to the posterior region reaches towards to the ventricle. Okay, anteriorly we can observe auricles and posteriorly we can observe ventricles. Okay, so from the ventricle the deoxygenated molecules will be moving into the blood vessel called as a pulmonary artery. This is the left pulmonary artery and this is the right pulmonary artery. Okay, so these are responsible for sending the deoxygenated molecules. Where does it go? Towards to the lungs. Okay, so these are the lungs, right? So lungs upper region is receiving the deoxygenated blood. Yes, and through that the exhalation process occurs. What will exhale? Carbon dioxide will be moving outside. Okay, this is nothing but the pulmonary circulation. Hope you all understood. From the body parts it enters into the right atrium. From the right atrium it enters into the right ventricle. From the right ventricle it enters into the pulmonary artery, and from the pulmonary artery it goes to left and right pulmonary arteries towards to left and right lungs, and from the lungs we can observe the moving of the carbon dioxide molecules towards to the outside of the atmosphere. Okay, and what is the systemic aorta? Systemic aorta, okay, nothing but the systemic circulation. Okay, so first we have completed the pulmonary circulation. So now concentrate only on the red hand side, red color. Okay, so here from where it is receiving? After the respiration process, the lungs will be receiving, the lungs will be sending the oxygenated molecules towards to the lungs. The basal region of the lung will be receiving the oxygenated molecules to the respiratory tract, and that will be sending the oxygenated molecules towards to the chamber, another chamber called as a left atrium. Oxygenated molecules means oxygenated molecules, oxygen gaseous molecules enter into the left atrium, and that will be moving towards to the left ventricle, and from the left ventricle it goes towards to the aorta. Yes, it is going towards to the aorta in the anterior and towards to the posterior. Yes, so these are moving into the blood cells so that we can observe the body cells completely receiving the oxygen, nutrients, and also the other useful particles to undergo the respiration process. Metabolical activities will be undergoing, and then the body will be getting the energy for undergoing the activities. Okay, our daily activities will be done based on the three systems. One is the circulatory system, one more is the respiratory system, and one more is the digestive system. Right? Hope you all understood. There are the two types of circulations. One is the pulmonary circulation and one more is the systemic circulation. Okay, pulmonary circulation carries the deoxygenated blood from body parts to lungs for exhalation, and systemic circulation carries the oxygenated blood from lungs towards to body parts through the inhalation process. Okay, two times the heart is receiving the blood for completing one complete circuit is called as a double circulation. Right? Next, coming to the circulatory system in amphibians. Okay, so this amphibians also contains the heart, blood and the blood vessels. Okay, so amphibians have how many chambered hearts it seems? They have the 3 chambered heart, nothing but 2 auricles and 1 ventricle. Okay, the heart with 2 atria and 1 ventricle. The blood from the lungs, pulmonary flow Pulmonary flow. Blood from the lungs, it is called as a pulmonary flow, goes to the left atrium. Goes to the left atrium, and blood from the body, nothing but systemic flow, goes to the right atrium. It is completely different. What is the pulmonary flow? The blood is moving from lungs towards to the left atrium. And what is the systemic flow? The blood is moving from the atria towards to the ventricles. Okay, the blood moves from the systemic flow, goes to the right atrium. Both atria empty into the ventricle, where some mixing occurs. Okay, so only one ventricle will be in the amphibians, so that we can observe mixing of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood, but partition can be done for separating the oxygenated molecules and the deoxygenated molecules. Okay, but sending the blood towards to the respective body parts like lungs and remaining body parts. Okay, let us see the mechanism over here. So from the body, the deoxygenated molecules are moving into the heart. Which heart? Which chamber? Going towards to the right atrium, and from there it is moving towards to the right ventricle. Okay, so the right ventricle and the left ventricle we can't say, only single ventricle will be, but partition can be seen, only slight partition, partial partition can be seen, so that the mixing of blood, oxygenated and the deoxygenated blood can be seen, but entering into the respective areas. Okay, so this is moving towards to the, what moves? Carbon dioxide molecules goes towards to the lungs, and from the right atrium, from the lungs, the oxygen is moving towards to the right atrium, and then it goes towards to the ventricle, and then it moves towards to the body parts through the aorta. Okay, so this is somewhat different. Okay, so what are the processes? Oxygen poor blood from the body enters into the right atrium is the first process, and the pulmonary veins carry the oxygen rich blood from lungs to the left atrium, and from there what happens? A mixture of oxygen rich and oxygen poor blood enters into the single chambered ventricle, and after that the last process is the ventricle pumps the blood towards to the body tissues through the different arteries. Okay, through the body parts, right? Coming to the next concept, circulatory system in some of the reptiles. In most of the reptiles, the ventricles are partially divided, not completely divided. They are the partially divided ones. In most of the reptiles, the ventricle is partially divided, and this reduces the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood in the ventricle. Okay, so in the amphibians we have discussed there is only one ventricle. Okay, but there is movement of the oxygenated and deoxygenated molecules towards to the particular arteries because of the pressure which is created by the oxygenated molecules and the deoxygenated molecules, nothing but the carbon dioxide molecules. But coming to some of the reptiles, here the ventricle is partially divided, it seems. See here, there is a partition but not completely. It's a partial division. Okay, let us see what happens. The reptiles like lizards and snakes. Lizards and snakes have two auricles. As like in the amphibians, in the reptiles also we can observe the two auricles and only one ventricle in their heart. So what kind of ventricle? Partially divided ventricle can be seen in the reptilians. Some of the reptilians called as snakes and lizards. Okay, and the circulation is what kind of circulation? Double circulation. Circulation is called as a double circulation even in the amphibians and also in the reptiles. And the heart is nothing but the pulmonary heart. Yes, let us see how. So what is moving over here? Circulation in the reptiles. Okay, so red color arrow marks indicates the oxygenated blood and blue color arrow marks indicates the deoxygenated blood. So let us see here what goes first. So here the oxygenated blood which is moving, entering into the right atrium, into the left atrium and partially entered into the cavum arteriosum. Cavum arteriosum in the sense it's a partition of the atria, once closes and opens and then enter into the cavum venosum. Cavum venosum is the left ventricle and cavum pulmonale is the right ventricle. Okay, so into the cavum venosum, the oxygenated molecules goes and again goes in an upward direction towards to the aorta. Yes, moving towards to the, some will be mixing here. Okay, but again because of the pressure it is moving towards to the aorta. Oxygenated blood goes from the cavum venosum towards to the left hand side ventricle. It tries to mix up, but because of the pressure it will be moving into the particular aorta to reach the body parts. Okay, and what about the deoxygenated blood? The deoxygenated blood will be received by the right atrium. Received by the right atrium. Okay, so from there it goes to deoxygenated blood, moves towards to the right atrium, and from there it goes towards to the right ventricle, and from the right ventricle again it goes back towards to the pulmonary arteries. Okay, so this kind of division of the oxygenated and deoxygenated blood from the right and the left atrium towards to the cavum venosum and cavum pulmonale, and these are also responsible for sending the deoxygenated blood from the cavum pulmonale and oxygenated blood from the cavum venosum towards to the particular arteries, and then we can observe the movement of deoxygenated blood and oxygenated blood towards to the lungs and the body parts. Okay, so this is the circulation in the reptiles. What kind of circulation? Double circulation, right? And let us see here circulation in the crocodiles, birds and mammals. What kind of circulation we can observe? It's a double circulation which we can observe. They are the four-chambered heart organisms. Okay, so birds, mammals and also the crocodilians have how many chambers? 4 chambers of heart which acts two separate pumps. Already we have discussed previously. One is the systemic circulation and one more is the pulmonary circulation. Okay, so after passing through the body, the blood is pumped under high pressure to the lungs. High pressure, the blood is moving towards to the lungs, and upon returning from the lungs, it is pumped under high pressure to the body. Okay, so the body is sending the high pressure of the blood, the movement of the blood from the ventricles which are at the basal region. The blood pressure will be high to reach out the lungs and also to reach out the body parts. Okay, so the high rate of oxygen rich blood flow through the body enables the birds and mammals to maintain the high activity levels. As the blood pressure is more, what kind of blood pressure is more? The deoxygenated blood and also the oxygenated blood. Deoxygenated blood has to enter into the lungs to go outside through the exhalation process, and oxygenated molecules has to reach from the lungs towards to heart, from the heart towards to the body parts, so that the metabolical activities will be taking the nutrients. Okay, it takes parts very fast with the help of the rich nutritive substances, so the organisms are highly active it seems. Okay, so that is based on the basic principle called as a high blood pressure. So they are highly active organisms. Okay, so let us see here. There are the 4 chambers of the heart in the crocodilians, birds and the mammals. Okay, so 2 atria and 2 ventricles. Okay, so this side is the partition. Okay, nothing but the pulmonary circulation, and this side it undergoes the systemic circulation. Okay, so that this kind of 2 circulations can be seen in these organisms is considered as a double circulation process. Okay, so twice the heart will be receiving the blood to complete one circulation, so that these are highly activated organisms because of the pressure which is exerted by the blood vessels, so that the blood will be moving very high pressure. Okay, so that the body receives and the lungs also receives, so that the continuous respiration process is required to undergo the continuous circulation process. So apart from these two, there is a requirement of another life process called as a digestive system. The body cells requires the oxygen. The body cells also requires the nutrients to undergo the metabolical activities called as a cellular respiration. The main component which undergoes is called as mitochondria. Okay, the mitochondria which plays a very major role after finishing the respiration, nutrition and the circulation. The targeted areas in the body cells are the mitochondria. They do undergo the respiration for releasing the ATP molecules and releases the waste products also. Right? Hope you all understood this. Right? Everybody enjoyed this video. We'll meet soon in the next session. Thank you.